Welcome to TechLux. Please support our channel by leaving a thumbs up and subscribing. Why are watches by Richard Mille so expensive? When we think about wristwatches, brands like Rolex or Tag Heuer instantly pop up in our minds. These makers of high-end watches have earned a reputation for themselves, and almost everyone knows how they are. Then, there's another name that has become well-known, popular among elite classes. Richard Mille. Some people might not be familiar with this brand. However, the wealthy class, on the other hand, loves their watches. Most people will only see a Richard Mille watch while they are surfing on the internet, unless they have rich friends. Richard Mille has only been around for a couple of decades. The first watch made by the Swiss company was in 2001. Since then, they have taken the world up high-end watches by storm. All because of their skills and overall creativity, the company has risen quickly to become the most exclusive watch brand in the game of watchmaking. While the watches are well made, it's surprise that is the most surprising thing. The least expensive watch of Richard Mille is RM005, which is going to cost you $80,000. That is the base price if you want to join the Richard Mille Club. Starting from there, these top-of-the-line watches range over $2 million. The Tourbillon is the most popular Richard Mille watch. Most of the time, they cost between $500,000 to $800,000. Watches made by Richard Mille are really expensive. By looking at the average price of the Richard Mille catalog, you'll know that it is the most expensive watch brand in the market. This brings us around the today's topic: why Richard Mille watches are so pricey. When thinking about the Richard Mille brand, we came up with a few reasons that set this brand apart from the rest. Richard Mille has become the most prestigious watch brand in the watch industry. The reason is that these watches are most worn by people with money and power. For those who wear Richard Mille's watches, a specific term has been coined for them: billionaire's handshake. By having a Richard Mille means that you have spent big money on it. It has turned into the highest sign of status in the watch industry. Even more so because people know how much you spent a hefty amount of Richard Mille, and only the richest people and famous people can afford to wear them. Marketing. While the watches are unmatchable in design, engineering, and innovation, the marketing of Richard Mille has also played a vital role in its success. One of the main reasons that they can charge such high prices is because of this. Their marketing team has effectively done this job, making people feel like they are getting something special. There are only a few people like you who can afford one, and those are only a handful of people. The team came up with a slogan: "A racing machine on the wrist," which the team has created speaks for itself. They've often used it as an answer to the question why their watches are expensive, and it has worked a great deal for them. Rarity. It's not only about marketing and strategies. It is hard to make a Richard Mille watch. It is intricate and takes a lot of time. Most of the work is done by hand, but that's not the only reason why Richard Mille watches are hard to find. It also comes down to rarity. If you make a ton of watches every year, it loses some of its mystique. Richard Mille produces less than 5,000 watches each year. It is not a small number, but every year, people want more than they can get. It creates a sense of distinctiveness and keeps people wanting more. Not only that, but a lot of different models are also produced by limited edition. It adds to the feeling that this watch is special. High prices in the second-hand market and auction show just how powerful the brand value is. Complicated movements. Another reason for making a limited number of watches is how much time and care they have to put into each one, and because the movements are so complicated, took a different approach to horology than most people that are used to seeing in classical world of Geneva. Richard Mille himself loved watches. He enjoyed watching the movements and of the tiny parts. From there, he got the idea that pioneered the concept of demonstrating how the parts work. As the modern watchmakers wanted to be able to see the movement of a watch, the idea was also loved by the public. After all, the movement is arguably the most exciting part of the mechanical watch. Richard Mille stuck to the idea, and soon it was all about the tourbillons. It is a rotating cage that requires high level of inventive refinement to escape. Every part of the movement in a Richard Mille watch is intuitive and made of high-impact reliability. With Richard Mille, you get not only unwavering accuracy, precision, and dependability, but also a sense of style and sophistication. High-tech materials. It's not just the innovative ideas of movements that make Richard Mille watches so revolutionary, that have never been used in the watch industry before. These are high-tech materials that are generally used in manufacturing Formula One cars. They aren't just radical materials in watchmaking. They are highly progressive in even the most high-tech industries. Mille has spent a vast amount of money and years of his life researching and developing ways to use the materials in his watches. These metals and materials have new composition that are known to watchmaking. One can always say that these watches are made of unique materials. It is not only the case. These watches are made of high-tech, long-lasting materials as they have functionality and purpose. Their big dials and straps don't make your wrist feel heavy because they are incredibly lightweight. On average, they weigh just 40 grams. Besides the lightweight and easy to carry, these materials bring immense resilience and durability into the mix. Altogether, you have a strong structure, a light feel, and a beautiful finish. It really blows your mind, and this is amplified in even more when you factor the complexity of the case's architecture. It's interesting that the way of the materials are processed often leads to random patterns in the layers of carbon. This ends up making every case unique from others. Same as the different fingerprints in humans. Due to the difference in carbon layering, no two cases are exactly alike. Every Richard Mille watch is one of a kind. Design. A Richard Mille watch is instantly recognized due to its eccentric design. The ideas behind itself and a futuristic timepiece is a Formula One car. That is why it looks like a cross between a Formula One race car and a sophisticated machine. The aesthetics of the design are impudently bold and different. As far as design goes, everything has been thought of to make it as comfortable as possible as it looks. All the models are hand-finished and are highly technical at the same time. Just putting together the dial is a very hard task. The skeleton-shaped dials, the most famous design that Richard Mille came up with, was a complicated way of layering sapphire crystals and other elements. Watchmaking. It is challenging to create Richard Mille's famous case as superior and unique as the watches are. This is what the brand has established as one of its main features. The sandwich-styled watch case is exceptionally difficult to make. It also increases the production cost of the product. It consists of 3 decks, front bezels, a middle section, and back bezels. Each component has a curved design. As there are no flat surfaces in the design, it makes putting it together incredibly difficult. To completely prevent moisture or dust from entering, the curved surfaces fit together within 100 of a millimeter. This precision is unquestionably the most fascinating aspect of Mille watches. Most watchmakers admit it as well, as they are equally impressed by this. The finishing techniques are also beautiful. This includes hand polishing and anglage, satin finishes on the bridges, glittery pivots, wheels, and more. To the highest degree, the execution is leading to a sporty, technical movement that is absolute pleasure to look at. Handmade timepieces of this caliber is usually laborious. It requires the highest level of technical mastery. This is one aspect as to why Richard Mille watches are so expensive. That's the end of this video. What do you think about Richard Mille watches? Comment right below and tell us about it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe.